Johnson. She'll be speaking with us for 15 minutes on the election and the importance of this election. I'm going to introduce Priestley. Let's see, I saw her. Oh, there you are. Hi, Priestley. Hi. Priestley M. Johnson is Director of Strategic Partnership and leads When We All Vote's Partnerships program that delivers voter registration tools and resources to over 5,000 plus corporate, community, and local partners across the nation. She's a passionate advocate and avid relationship builder dedicated to using her skill set of strategic partnerships, management, crowd and endowment fundraising, and business development. With previous experience in the Obama White House, the International Women's Forum, and other national organizations, Priestley is passionate about advocating for more resources for those in need and building capacity through access to those resources. She's a proud Howard alumni and committed to moving the needle. So thank you so much, Priestley, for being here today, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Oh, you're muted.
Ooh, there we go. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Kathy, for reaching out, and thank you guys for allowing me in your space. My name is Priestley Johnson, and I work with When We All Vote. And When We All Vote's mission is to change the culture of voting, and what we mean by that is to make sure that each and every election is spoken about, talked about, and in every setting of our life. We believe our democracy is a part of every institution. Every organization should be at the table, and we all should be a part of making sure that voting is a part of the culture that we live in. And so our main pillars are voter registration, voter turnout, and advocacy. And we want to make sure that more people have their voices heard. And we know that when more people show up, our democracy is strong. And that is a great kind of layup, because we need to talk about this year's midterm election. One, happy election day. I hope you guys all voted. I just voted today. I have my sticker on. I love a good sticker, so they got me with that, you know. But we also need to talk about we got a few more stickers on the feed. I love it. But we need to talk about this year's midterm election, and there is so much on the line, and there's so much at stake. So a big thing that I love to kind of start out with talking about is exactly what is at stake. And I like to say very plainly, our democracy is at stake. In 2020, we had historic voter turnout. I mean, we had droves and droves of people, no matter which alignment you have in the space, of people that turned out, participated in our democracy. But what we saw as a direct response to that was that we had 500 voter suppression bills being introduced by state lawmakers. And what that looks like is so much. And these bills often silence the voices at the ballot boxes and disproportionately impact Black, Brown, Indigenous, and young voters and voters with disabilities. So what voter suppression really looks like, as many of you guys know, it looks like in Florida, having a election protection police that feeds into disinformation that costs taxpayers over $1 million. That looks like in Texas, purging people from the rolls right before a primary. That looks like in Georgia not being able to hand out water and food in lines so people can rest and feel comfortable as they wait to vote. It's these little actions that amount to larger things, and they are effective and they still do work. And it's not new. These are not new tactics. They are being introduced at a larger scale. And what that looks like, I mean, again, we have been kind of experiencing this from before, right this moment. We've experienced voter suppression in the form of poll taxes, literacy tests, et cetera, et cetera. These have been things we've competed, but it's up to us to continue to move the needle. This was a major pushback on our voting rights, and we need to make sure that we're introducing federal laws that allow us to early vote up to 15 days before the election, that allow us to, have a certain amount of polling locations for a certain amount of people in a precinct, regulating and making sure that all people across the nation have access to the ballot box. And that can be done on a federal level to combat these state lawmakers. But that is what our current state of being. But what is at stake this specific election is that we have all 435 seats in the House of Representatives are up for election. I mean, I think this crowd knows that that is a big deal when it comes to decision-making for our country at large. And a third of the seats in the House of, in the Senate are up for election as well. I mean, these are decision makers. I mean, when we think about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson and the, being able to, the people that actually were able to verify her candidacy, like those people are the Senate. These are people that directly impact the way that our country is going. And we've seen this happen. We've seen it played out. If you look at the last 3 cycles of our legislative body, it's so important for you to see that voting is not a one and done type of thing. It is a marathon. And I love to make the analogy that it is like passing the baton. We run a really good race, our hardest, and then we have to pass that baton. And then that next wave, we have to still run our hardest. I love that. Diane said it takes a community to keep our democracy, and we have to stay in the game. I understand that people may feel, that voter apathy, that like, oh my gosh, I didn't see everything I wanted done. And I feel them. I have my own laundry list as well. Trust me, I call my representative too, and I'm like, hey, what's up? But that's what we need to do. We need to stay involved. We need to stay at the table, and we have to do our job, and our job is holding them accountable. But another thing that's really, really awesome about a midterm election is that we always hear that the laws that impact you the most are your local laws and the people that make those local laws. And there's so many state lawmakers that are up for election in your respective neighborhoods. And these people determine things from your access to healthcare, your potholes in your neighborhood, whether there's going to be a grocery store down the street from you, and all of these things that impact your life. I saw something today about on the ballot initiative about whether waitresses should be getting their tip wages, or they should be getting an additional salary. And I'm like, hey, I can weigh in on that. I used to be a waitress. Hey, so I think that in general, I think that we all need to do our job to stay at the table to make sure more people come. And today I was a little bit late to get into the office because I was bringing one of my friends with me to go vote. And I think, I know all of you guys are here and I love that. But if you guys can text 3 people right now to make sure that they voted. My aunt, it was her first time voting, and she was so happy, and she sent a picture into our family group chat. So if you have that family group chat, start that trend. Make it an event and make sure
Good
that
luck
people
with doing that.
feeling like they are a part of their democracy. And so I love that you can change a culture within your own family, your own unit, your job, and even in your community. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So I love your passion, Priestley. And you mentioned something about that you're in contact with your legislatures on a regular basis. I want to share a little story. I think it was about 6 years ago, I was very dissatisfied with some political stuff going on. And because I had so much angst and anger, I started coloring postcards to send to them. Because I thought, okay, I'll put some love into this. I was telling them everything that I wanted them to do, and they weren't doing any of it, right? So finally, the last postcard I sent, I said, I'm sorry, you're not listening to me. I'm going to have to work to get you out of office. And that was the last postcard I sent. But I think it's very important to voice your opinion and try to do it the best, in the least negative way possible. But definitely get your voice out there.
Yes, and that is what accountability looks like. And I think as we've just introduced this entire wave of young people into our election, I mean, we had the highest turnout of young people in 2020, and these young people are looking to us and go like, hey, why aren't things happening faster? I mean, this is the TikTok age of young people. They're like ready for the instant 30-second clip. Laws need to change now, and we need to educate them to say, hey, I understand how you feel, but also it takes a bit longer, and get more involved so that we can create processes when you're actually in the game so that things can move faster. You can change the trajectory, and it's really important for us to stay involved, especially if you have a young person in your life. Make sure that they voted today too.
Yeah, I think over the last several years, the comment everybody usually makes is my vote doesn't make a difference. But I think over the last several years, people have been able to see that their vote really does make a big, huge difference.
It really does. And I love to cite Georgia. If you remember the Georgia runoff, I mean, we were scraping for every single vote, every single person. And that runoff was like determined by just a few thousand people. And if you know a few thousand people, I mean, like, that's just like the 3 people you meet over here, the 4 people, the 5 people, you just get to turn their head and pay attention one more time. And that amounts to that number. It's really not that so many votes. I mean, one time there was an election that was determined by 6 votes. And we always talk about that internally. Yeah. And we always talk about that internally. We're like, if this one email reaches 6 more people, if we do one more thing to reach 6 more people, we'll be able to really make an impact. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the elections have been so close the last few years. On both ends, participation is going up. And I believe this midterm election is trending higher than any other midterm election so far. So that's really, really great. Yeah. But that also means when we're looking at, in the scale of like participation as a whole, we're still only like just brushing 60% overall for our eligible population. And when we look at that, we're like, okay, who are these 40% of people? And what do they think about this? How should they be participating and being involved? Maybe they have completely other views than us, but listen, the people that vote are the decision makers, and I wouldn't want anyone else making any decisions for me. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I know your time is pressed for today. Thank you for all the work you're doing to get everybody out to vote. And I look forward to a continued relationship with you. You're part of the Peace Alliance family now. Well, I'm happy to be here, and I really appreciate this invite, and I hope that you guys do your very, very, very best today to just get the word out, and I appreciate you guys allowing me in your space. Thank you, Priestley. All right. Bye. Okay, thank you everybody for joining.